Welcome to The Authority File, the academic library podcast from Choice, brought to you this week by Roman and Littlefield. I'm Bill Mickey, the host of the podcast and the editorial director at Choice. This week, we're joined by Janet Hunju Clark, Raymond Pun, and Moni Tong to talk about their book, Asian American Librarianship and Library Services. This episode is one of a four-part series, in which Janet, Ray, and Moni discuss how their book came together and highlight a few of their favorite chapters. Okay, Ray, Janet, and Moni, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you for having us.
Thanks.
You got it. Can you guys talk a little bit about how the idea came about, how the book got started, and how the three of you kind of came together to put the book together?
Hi, sure, Bill. I can get started. I was thinking about this project back in 2015, and at the time I was working on a couple of other edited books, and I was doing a environmental scan of what were some of the current materials out there. So, for example, I was able to see at Roman Littlefield, they were publishing Black librarians in America, Latinos in libraries, and weaving that into ethnic studies. And then I realized there was no copy on Asian American experiences in the libraries. And so I started talking to Janet, whom I know from APALA, which is the Asian Pacific American Librarians Association, and she was excited to be on it. And this was something I was planning from 2015, and we didn't really actually get started until middle of 2016. So that was a really good opportunity to also bring in Moni as well, who I knew from ALA's Emerging Leaders Program, and we worked really well together. And she was really excited and interested too. Then it started just going from there, where I was able to work with both of them and really think this idea through and turning the concept into the actual book that you're seeing right now.
Mm-hmm. I like the way the book is structured. You have sort of this combination of interviews that you've done with folks, as well as actual contributed essays from other folks. And I'm wondering if you could walk us through how you decided, when to conduct an interview, or when to have somebody submit a contribution.
Yeah, I can answer that. We had two ways to find contributors. One was an open call, so we just sent out an email to our listservs asking for contributors to the book. And then we also reached out to librarians that we already knew and admired, information professionals that we knew were APA leaders in the field. And we asked them if we could interview them and craft questions for them. So we were also looking for really a diverse range of contributors so that we could get a lot of different perspectives. So we were looking for diversity in institutions between public, academic, and special libraries, diversity in Asian heritage, and also regional diversity so that we could get a lot of different people from different parts of the country, and in some cases, different parts of the world too.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I'll just add that we also were very fortunate to get contributions from faculty or people who are in the LIS educational field, or that perspective represented in the book as well.
Yeah, I'm sure that was key. And why can you talk a little bit more? Moni, is that you? I assume?
No, this is Janet.
Oh, Janet, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Can you talk a little bit more about the importance of having that perspective in the book?
Well, the bulk of the book is about professionals practicing librarianship, but then it really is a continuum. We really emphasize diversity and the need for it, the lack of it, et cetera. And, librarians come after they get their education, and what happens while they're getting educated, and who are the people who are getting the LIS education, and, how do we recruit them from undergraduate schools, et cetera. So it's really a continuum, and that's a perspective that some of our contributors were able to provide that we may, as practitioners, we may not always think about, but it's a reminder that there is a whole spectrum of things that happen to bring us to the place where we are with diversity issues and the state of Asian American librarianship. So that was an interesting part of the book that also we can talk about later about how they resonate with other parts of the books.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll get into that a little bit later on in the discussion. And in the meantime, though, I'm wondering, if each of you could, and Ray, well, I guess we'll circle back to you on this to start, but if you could, just talk a little bit about an interview or a contribution that stuck out for you in particular and why.
So yeah, I'm really proud and thrilled first that we've weaved all these great contributors into this book, and particularly, I think a lot of people from Fresno State, where I am, they were able to contribute and really demonstrate their interests and experiences as Asian American librarians. So I just wanted to give a shout out to my colleagues who were able to contribute. There was like 8 of them or so. And particularly one that stood out was Lynn Nguyen. She's a children's librarian at Rosemead Library, which is part of the LA County library system. And I've known her for close to 10 years. And I've never actually seen her do storytelling for children until just recently. But I had done this interview with her and just a series of questions, a conversation about her background. And it's really striking because when you read this interview, you feel this energy, this passion to support the communities that she's supporting. And you really want to work with her in a way that you want to, collaborate and see this excitement that exudes through this interview piece. So I wanted to say that her pieces, it just shows her day-to-day life as a children's librarian, but also what and how she's committed to serving her community, particularly the Vietnamese community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, throughout the book, or at least by the time you get to the end of it, you realize, how much of all of what you're talking about needs to start in the community. I mean, even up, before you even get to the leadership chapter or section, this really all needs in terms of, expanding the diversity in librarianship. A lot of it really needs to start in the community itself.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep. Janet, how about you?
I couldn't pick one. I have to say,
sure
really the experience was quite amazing. But I'll mention a few. Adrienne Lim's essay about being a leader and her, just connecting her personal journey to that informs her leadership and her philosophy was just a great honest assessment of APA library leaders and professionals generally. So I really appreciated that. Another essay, this is actually an interview of Samip Malik's interview about how he and his co-founder started SADA, which is the South Asian American Digital Archive, was also very inspiring to me. It's just, they had a vision and then they systematically went about doing it, and there's just really wonderful resources that are in that archive, which is really cool. One more that I'll mention is Jerry Deer's piece about community engagement, like you mentioned, with just finding those synergistic partners with the San Francisco Public Library and then the Association of Chinese Teachers and Asian American Studies at the college level. They found ways to be stronger together in partnerships that bring those 3 constituent groups together for meaningful events and initiatives. And I think those are things that really they really inspired me. I just felt so honored to have them be a part of the book.
Great. And Moni?
Yeah, like Janet, I think there are a lot of wonderful pieces. So it was hard for me to choose one, but one that really personally resonates with me is chapter 2, which is Janet's interview with Dr. Sarah Park Dallin, who is a researcher and scholar in diversity in children's books. And I love reading about her experience growing up looking for Korean American characters in books, because there's definitely something that I grew up with. I grew up during the height of the Babysitters Club books, which I used to be very ashamed of, but now as a librarian, realize that it's okay. It's okay to like something like the Babysitters Club. But I grew up during the height of that, and one of the reasons why I liked those books so much is because there's an Asian American character in the books named Claudia Kishi. And when reading her interview and her experience, it just really resonated with me. And I'm just glad that there is scholarship being done about how to have more people of color in books, have more people of color writing books. I used to work with young adults in teen services at the San Diego Public Library, and just interacting with them and building a rapport with the teens just solidifies how important it really is to have characters in books that reflect the diversity in our society today. So give chapter 2 a read. I think it's a really great interview.
Our guests this week, Janet Hunju Clark, Raymond Pun, and Moni Tong, appear courtesy of Rowman and Littlefield. For more perspective on the professional journeys of Asian American and Pacific Islander librarians, check out their edited volume, Asian American Librarians and Library Services. It's full of interviews with Asian American library leaders like Dr. Sarah Park Dallin, Samip Malik, Vang Vang, and many more. It also includes insightful essays from Adrian Lim and Todd Hanma, as well as others, on topics such as building collaboration between campuses and communities, and strategies for increasing the diversity of the library workforce. When you order from Rowman.com, that's ROWMAN, use the promo code CHOICEPOD17 to save 30% off the cover price. A lot of the chapters in the book, whether they're Q&As or contributed pieces, incorporate a lot of personal stories and history, and really, tease out the heritage of the folks who are contributing to this, and which I really liked. And I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about how that sort of completes the overall mission of the book, and why that element is important to this book.
Well, for me, I think that the personal stories just make all of the experiences more real, if that makes sense. And I think that it also calls back to this idea of Asian Americans being invisible. That's why I think that the personal stories are just important to make our contributors' stories much more real for the reader. But what do you think, Ray and Janet?
I think the ideas of the stories really help give the contributors or the librarians a multidimensional aspect to it. Like, you really understand where they're coming from. It humanizes the process and really helps people understand that this is a experience that can be really unique, but can also be really relatable to the reader themselves.
I'll just add that this is, I, I think this is sort of what Clara Chu is talking about when she's talking about asset mapping, because really these librarians, what these stories tell us is that they bring a wealth of resources and experiences that enrich their way of approaching librarianship. And that is what I think is very valuable about these personal stories, but also in some of the essays that really incorporate, they have generously shared their personal journeys with us and showed the connection and how that resonates with or enriches their professional work. I think, Ray, we were talking about some of the essays like with Anna Yang, Vang Vang. Adrian Lim's essay is also another very good example of that. So these are, there's several. Gary Kolmanar is another one who talks about his own personal growth and development of his philosophy of social justice and how that informs his own work as a librarian. So to me, those are ways that those are great examples of how these library professionals enrich the work that they do from their own experiences.
You just heard from Janet Hunju Clark, Raymond Pun, and Moni Tong. This concludes episode 1 of our 4-part series. This episode was brought to you by Rowman and Littlefield and Choice. Be sure to join us for the next episode where Janet explains how Asian American studies is an oppositional field.
Its very existence is a critique of the Western academic institutions.
You can search for and listen to all of the episodes of the Authority File podcast on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher. You can also find the podcast on our website. Just click on the librarianship drop-down. If you like what you hear, please take a moment to give us a review on your favorite podcast app. That's all for this week. Thanks for joining us.